98, and we have a special guest, which is Kaylee McMahon. Again, a little bit of bio of her and the background, what she does, and the things that we're going to be covering. This is all multifamily investing real estate episode for you. So if you're interested into that, make sure to stick in and keep watching. But first of all, nicknamed the Apartment Queen. You can find her on theapartmentqueen.com on the website. She's the founder of The Apartment Queen, founder of Re by Kaylee LLC, residential real estate brokerage. She's a general partner, key principal in $45 million assets under management in Texas, $17.1 million assets under management in Phoenix, Arizona, and everything is listed here. Bachelor's degree in molecular and experimental nutrition, Texas A&M University, licensed real estate broker in the state of Texas, 3 years. So she's purchased $68.2 million in multifamily real estate as a general partner and key principal. Sold over $3 million of residential real estate before transitioning into her full-time syndication role. What else here to mention? Kaylee has done home flippings, that stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot and it continues. So we're going to include, as I mentioned to Kaylee before, everything is down below in the description. So you have to check it out and read through. Well, one thing that I want to mention, we will create 1 billion more female investors and givers. So that's one of her goals, which of course we're going to discuss in this show also. But first things first, I just want to say a big thank you today for being on the show.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So thank you. Thank you. So listen, where do we start? I mean, there's a lot of different things that we have here going on. So, but first of all, let's kind of go back to the beginning and maybe discuss your journey and your transition journey and how did you find the real estate investing?
By accident.
Okay. That's a quick answer. Can you expand on that?
Sure. I think I'm not alone in this, but growing up with a family that doesn't have any experience in real estate, the way that you understand what investing is in the stock market, which at this point, I really think it's legalized gambling. But at that time when I was younger and being taught a few things, I had an adoptive father who would kind of plan the stock market during the day, but never explained anything to me. So I didn't really understand how it works. So I kind of put investing into a box. Lived my life trying to kind of figure out what I'm about, who I am, what I enjoy doing. And I've done a little bit of a lot of different things to try out sales. I've fixed computers, as you can see from my resume, just in real estate alone, there's been a few different things I've done from passive note investing, flipping houses actively to, apartments and other things in between. So it was by accident. I had a personal concierge business after I was tired of working for a manager who didn't understand how people work. You have to take care of the people that work with you. And if not, they're going to go away because those skills are not easy to come by. And I'm probably the ultimate salesperson that anyone could have. So I like to self-teach, et cetera. So realizing that I would want to be a better boss myself, I knew I couldn't work for somebody. So I started a concierge business. And to speed it up, the concierge business was working with wealthy people in Dallas, Fort Worth, and basically managing all of their homes, parties, bills. I mean, all the moving parts that have to do with being efficient, making a system outside of their work life. So this was something I didn't understand in a business model or how a business model worked, that you have to scale at some point. So a friend of mine said, great idea, great logo, good concept, it's working. But right now, if you've ever read the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series, the first book, not Rich Dad, Rich Dad series, the first book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they talk about the E, S, B, and I quadrants. So at that time, I was not an employee, but I was self-employed, an S. So if you didn't bring in anything, you didn't eat, you know what I mean? And at a certain point, you run out of time. So I was kind of to that point where it was working and moving, and it was At the time, looking back at myself, I wish I understood how seed capital worked. I wish I understood how putting together projections and pitch decks for performance. If I were to have capital, what would happen? I know how to do all that now, but at the time I didn't, because I didn't have a business degree and didn't really know the right people. So a friend of mine said, well, why don't you, instead of taking out a business loan to fund this system that's working, to scale it, why don't you just get into real estate and then sell 4 or 5 houses a year, take that capital, put it into the business for systems, advertising, people, kind of what you need to scale. So that's kind of what got me into real estate. And I was kind of resistant to it at first, to tell you the truth, because like I said, I'm good at sales, but when I think of real estate, I was thinking of just realtors. I didn't understand that there was a whole world of investing and so many different niches under that umbrella that were in real estate. So once I learned what was available, I kind of got hooked.
Okay, got it. So that's an interesting kind of transition from, again, as I mentioned, servicing kind of wealthy people, taking care of their parties and all these bills and, all that stuff, and kind of moving into real estate, which, as you mentioned, happens by accident. So can you talk about your kind of first deals? Was it the first that you got involved with the flipping, or you became a broker, which I guess it was the kind of flipping part that you got involved first, right?
Involved with investing or involved with real estate? Say that again.
Just real estate in general.
Yeah, the first thing, I got a license. So, because most people think that that's where you have to start, not the case. But you think that you have access to certain things, and you do, but for the amount of schooling and legal burden that you have to carry and continue to carry over time, we could get into a whole other podcast on that, but that's what I did. And when I got into that, I also, because all they do is scare the absolute living crap out of you in those 180 hours of schooling, how to not get your broker sued. That's literally all they're teaching you. They're not teaching you how to run comps on properties, like how to even have like basic knowledge or skills as a real estate agent. So at the time when I was doing that, I go, okay, well, let's just do leases, because that kind of takes away the liability of doing contracts. The contracts, when you're doing leasing, you can lease single family homes or you can lease apartments. When you are a broker, or sorry, not broker, when you are a real estate agent in Texas, you have to actually be a licensed agent to be able to place people in apartments. So it's called an apartment locator. Some states like Colorado, they don't make you do that. You can just be an individual getting essentially a referral fee from the property. But here, that's just how it works. So that's what I did at first. And again, you don't have to write any contracts up. The only thing that you're doing is basically helping people narrow down what they want using a apartment MLS, if you will, that exists out there. And then some of the times I do it now sometimes, but I can do it from wherever I am, because I realize how to do it. It's that you never have to be there. The people literally show themselves and then you get paid. So why not, right? But that was how I started, was in leasing and being around apartments, but not being on the investor side or being a principal.
Okay, got it. And you mentioned another thing that I would like to kind of talk about a little bit. Again, is one of those skills which a lot of people should be thinking about acquiring, which is sales. So can you talk about, because again, what you mentioned before, you said I'm great at sales. So can you just talk about what makes a person to be great at sales? How do you acquire that trait? Is there a course? Is there a training, some sort of, and how does that help you to build your real estate business?
It's really simple. I used to be in sales and be okay at it, and now I can close anything. Part of it, being a female, is subconscious, where we don't feel very comfortable negotiating, and I could go into that for forever, but everything is a negotiation. That's really, just accept that, you know what I mean? And someone that is in sales, the reason they would be good at sales, I don't want to limit it to just like a sales position, because even when I'm doing an offering, I'm still selling the deal. I'm still saying, look, I'm confident in the deal. I have my money in it. Look, I've done this in the past. So you're selling your team, you're selling yourself, you're selling your track record, you're selling the actual physical building itself, what it's going to do for other people. So when you're spewing features and benefits in any kind of sales, that's not the way to do it, or at least not the way to start. If someone asks you for that, sure, let them know. But really, everyone is on WIIFM, I think is how you say it. Like, what's in it for me? FM. That's the frequency everyone's tuned into. So all they are listening for, and they can only pay attention for 3 minutes at a time, is what am I getting out of this? So if you can listen and having a conversation where you're either meeting with somebody or somebody you're passing by, whatever it is, you get them to talk more than you talk. And all you're trying to do is say if they talk about their dog, right? You don't go, oh, I have a dog too, and try to chime in and try to, I don't know what the word is, but be communal and add to the conversation. Instead, you need to listen. And so saying, oh, well, how old is the dog? Or where did you get the dog from? Or something like that. And what will end up happening is eventually, if you keep getting that person to talk about whatever is going on with them, at some level, we all have some stress or we have something that's bothering us or keeping us up at night. Don't ever ask that, by the way. The people like, oh, what? Like, what's keeping you up at night? Don't ask that. It's too salesy. But you're just getting the person to talk, and eventually they will tell you some problems. And then if you have a solution that will fix those problems, wonderful. Offer the solution. Here's what I can do to help you. And so it's coming from a place of help and giving, not taking. And if something doesn't sound good to them, let it go. No big deal. But usually people want help. And even if it's not your solution, and there's, I'm always connecting people that maybe have a better solution or get them what they need. So pretty much it's just getting someone to talk about their problems, and then seeing if you have a solution for them. And some of the times, even with a conversation, you don't need to close people ever. Like I don't ever have that in mind where at the end of the meeting, you have to have, like, that's something that actually people preach a lot in sales stuff. Cause I have taken some sales trainings and books and stuff, and it's kind of crap, to tell you the truth. You don't need to close anyone ever. Like, they've sat there and hopefully talked for about an hour about themselves. So at the end of that meeting, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this person's amazing. I really like Kaylee because she understands me, because you let them get all the stuff off their chest that nobody else wants to listen to or has listened to. So being like that to somebody makes them feel really good about being around you. So they're likely going to engage you again just because of that meeting that they had. And so that's the great part about being a good salesperson, is that you have people engaging you. You're not fishing. They're coming to you because you listen and you give a crap, so whether you have a solution today, you might tomorrow, but I guess that's the best advice I've got.
Got it. So you won't lean on a person if you see that the actual deal is or potential property that you're looking to acquire is not going to solve their problem. Would you be willing to lean on them and kind of, just because sometimes people need that, right? Because somebody just not able to make the decision until somebody kind of just leans on them and pushes them a little bit. So would you do that to the people, kind of, encourage them? Or is there, some sort of a strategies that you use beside, listening, like that will actually help you to get the deal done?
Saying no as often as possible. In the realm of what I do, rich people don't like being told no. So if you find that you're dealing with a wealthy person, and for me, I'm trying to ask them if they're, not sure. Every email or interaction that I have is saying, okay, I'm going to answer a question that you have. What is your level of interest? That's when it comes to raising money specifically, not when it comes to pitching the property on a slide deck or in a webinar. Those are just different things. But when you're interacting with somebody who's already looked at your information, already decided, hey, I'm interested. And then there's a couple, like probably 3 layers of, next steps. And so they get the instruction after the webinar. They're already obviously interested, period, because they came to the webinar. There's some instructions at the end of how to go review documents, how to go look at the actual offering on your own time, what our time frame and timeline looks like, what the investment is limited to, what criteria that individual has to meet before they qualify to invest. So again, it's just the no. It's limiting down who can even have access to it. And again, adding a little bit of FOMO, I guess, to a presentation, saying there's 100 spots, which is a fact, right? There's certain information that you can choose to talk about and not talk about, but creating demand, like that's why I've been really good at moving residential home sales, is because I can figure out a way to go, okay, here's a tip, for example, like, I don't know why people don't do this. You don't want to be available for everybody all the freaking time. You only have so much energy. Hopefully you have a family, you have a life, things like that. And it's important to only work with people that want to see your life get better. So they really need to understand and respect your time. So, somebody that, I forgot what I was going to say, somebody that, what did I just say?
So look, the question that like the thing that I want to kind of put out there, because I came across this
Go
thing and
push on it.
I think it's a little bit funny because what you mentioned when it comes to the limited, seats and such, because what prior to the COVID, people used to come, in this open events, meetups, and so, in place where you have like really like limited space and it could be like 50 chairs only. But when it comes to like internet, I seen somebody just put out like it's a webinar and it's limited space. Like, man, it's on internet. What are you talking about? It's limited, But what you're saying is like giving them all these questions and making exclusive, for those kind of people. So it does make sense.
I guess
So
that's where I was getting to. Yeah. Telling people no, basically. And then they can never, ever, ever come back to you and say like, well, I didn't for sure want to do this or have buyer's remorse or anything. I'm basically reconfirming several times that like, hey, this is limited. Hey, this is the type of criteria you have to meet to qualify. Hey, like, so, and for example, when people are getting down to that, okay, I'm interested. Like I'll say, what's your level of interest? I'm interested. Okay, well, what questions do you have? Then they'll have some questions. Then I'll answer them. What level of interest do you have? And then that's my push, is just getting them to answer questions. If you end your emails or conversations with a question, it's not a closing, but it's just moving that person closer to making a decision, yes or no. And I don't even care if it's no. And that would be one of the biggest tips that I have, I guess, when it comes to sales, is if you have another source of income. So for example, when I'm doing these deals, I still do have a real estate brokerage because I'm able to still make income through that. And then I have another company coming out next year. But these other sources of income basically that either self-run themselves, they're semi-passive, which is great. That's why I also invest myself as well. But that makes you never desperate. So when somebody is interacting with you, there's no reason to push. And when you do push, it turns somebody off. And just that alone, even if they want it and they're interested and they need it, they're still going to go away because they need to know that they made the decision to do it.
got it. And depending on the countries, because like myself personal, I face that issue. Sometimes depending on the countries that people are from, when it comes to the time frame, somebody can take a little bit longer time, shorter period of time. So it depends, to where actually people are from, because that influences a lot. Because somebody like from my country, they might be thinking about something that's a kind of hard decision for hours, and somebody else could be thinking for days or maybe weeks. So we have to kind
And
of
that's
know
why
the demographic of people also, I think.
you kind of don't, because like I mentioned, if you make that clear up front, here's the limitations. If they can't do it, they're going to go away. And I don't need to deal with people that can't make up their mind. If they can make up their mind in a reasonable time, like if they're thinking for hours, that's cool. I don't care.
Yeah.
You can think for a week, but you may miss out and your spot may go away. And again, I'm not chasing you. They're chasing me. So it just is being
Well, that's
upfront with the
that
limitation.
specific example is based on this kind of webinar piece, but there's different, like if we're talking about different business aspects when it comes to buying or closing. You probably heard the stories where people like keep following up with the property owners for months or maybe like years until they buy some deals, because those people keep thinking about selling the properties for whatever reason, but they just extend the time frame. And again, that's the people, that's what they do sometimes. Like one thing that I wanted to talk about is like sales. I mean, it's a great piece, and it's very valuable to have those type of skills. One of the things is like just being certain. I don't know if it helped for you, but like in my own personal background, like if you're just certain about the product or service or property or whatever you're selling, if the one who is certain about their product service is going to influence other person which is not certain. So if your level of certainty is higher than the other person, I think that will help you a lot at the same time, because everybody is uncertain during these times. So somebody has to be certain.
Yeah, self-confidence helps everything.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about
It wins in relationships, it wins in business. It's a good quality to have. And don't be fake with it. Like, for example, when I said earlier, hey, I've got my own money in it. I've got skin in the game. I believe in the numbers and the deals, or in the deal itself, because I want to make the returns myself. So, I mean, that also really helps, having some social proof. Yeah.
Definitely agree. Can you talk about the first multifamily deal, kind of your experience in it? I mean, and just a little bit, if you run the numbers, location, number of units, all the good stuff.
Sure. I'm not going to disclose the location because Texas is a non-disclosure state. So I can tell you we bought it for $1 million. It was 18 units. It was in South Dallas. It was a property that had Section 8, but it was not being renewed, which is why we went for it. That property was the first one that I learned on. So it was one where, you know, you have prostitution rampant, you have some drug dealing, you have we do C-class workforce housing. So, but again, where it was in South Dallas, it was kind of on the edge of the ghetto. So super long story short, waited for the Section 8 to not renew, and then started bumping rents slightly. And then so people started leaving. So it gives us the opportunity to get in there and to flip the units and make them much nicer, which the budget's already planned for in the loan for that purpose. Then doing a lot of capital expenditures on the exterior of the building. I have a breakdown in a notepad. I don't have the exact, I think we put like a grill, a pergola, like the normal stuff we kind of do, a park bench, certain things for the amenities. And then basically once all the bad non-paying tenants were out and Section 8 had not renewed, then we have good paying tenants at a higher rental rate. And based on the compressed cap rate, within 13 months, we sold it for $1.8 million.
Got it. So do you look at this current moment, what do you have going in the pipeline? Do you look at any kind of distressed, those type of properties for now?
Depends on what you consider distress. So usually when
ghetto,
you're looking at
like ghetto and all the like drug dealers and prostitution sounds a little bit distressed.
well, not it's on the edge. So it depends on the class of the building, which is usually decided by the vintage of the property, the deferred maintenance. And again, deferred maintenance is kind of part of that, like tenant mix, who's there and what are they doing to the property, because they're going to degrade it faster if they're like it's a bad tenant mix. So what we do is C-class housing. So I like C-, C+ class, and then we'll renovate it to the next class up. But again, a distressed deal would be for me something that's a D class, something that is so deferred in the maintenance that like you'd literally just need to bulldoze the damn building. There's no point in it's bad on the inside and bad on the outside. And then in addition to that, usually D class are in a neighborhood where, I mean, you're surrounded by, crime, prostitution, things like that. And if you're surrounded by it, you can't get out of it. So a C class property that is not quite distressed, but it's on the edge, just the other owner wasn't taking care of it or upgrading it or running it like a business like they could have. But for example, we have a deal in Phoenix that is on Indian School Road. It's north of that road. South of that road is the ghetto, I would call it. So we'll do it on the edge so you get a decent price. And again, we're part of that gentrification of moving it down, like basically taking over the bad parts, but not when you're surrounded by it. So I guess that's what I mean. We'll do C-class deals that are kind of, like I said, on the edge of being distressed, but not fully distressed deals. But then again, I've done some C-class deals in West Texas that they, based on their year build and their vintage, they were C-class, but I mean, the owner took really good care of them, where the roof was new, the foundation was good, the HVACs were all individual and new, the plumbing was taken care of. So all we really had to do was just flip the units and be able to increase them quite a bit very quickly.
Got it. So the question that pops in my head, how do you know if the ghetto and the bad area is not going to start moving in to your part of the area? Because you kind of said if you're kind of standing on the edge. Like, so what type of statistics that, like, what type of data are you looking at to make sure that you're making those quality decisions?
Yeah, so there are handfuls of different data out there that you can gather, and this is kind of just playing along with crime. That's really one of the most important things to look at, like when we're betting a market to either move into or a new area. It's like a 5-prong approach, and there are 2 different tabs to this spreadsheet I'm thinking of in my head, and one is at zip code level, and then the other is at subdivision level. So at zip code level, when you're looking at it, there's city-data.com, bestplaces.org, and those are 2 places where it's the bestplaces.org will give you a map where you can kind of look at a scale of like how heavy the murders are there, or like the crime rate, and it'll like literally go from light pink and white all the way up to like really red for that zip code area. And then City-Data uses a 10-year long data frame. So it's usually census to census, going year to year, saying, okay, so what you want to see is what I'm trying to describe is that over a 10-year period of time, the number that you're looking on City-Data under the crime under the total, the number needs to be under 500, and that's like 500 murders per square mile, I believe. And then over the last 10 years, the delta or the change from 10 years prior to now, you want to see that number going down steadily over time. So we definitely look at that. And then those things, like I said, are based on the census. So if you want something a little bit more up to date, Texas A&M has a real estate center. And if you go on their website, they have a pretty up to date same thing, market analysis with crime. So the 5 prongs are, you want to look at crime level, income growth, median house value growth, job growth, and job growth, population growth, job growth, crime decrease, median house value, and median income, I think is, the houses, the income, the crime, like all those 5 things. And the biggest, most important thing to me would be the crime and the job growth. So where are those trending? So that's really what we look at before we're looking at a market, like at a zip code level. Second tab is looking at everything from the demographics of the individuals that live in that subdivision or that really close area that you're looking at. I'm trying to remember all those things, but looking at their demographics, the unemployment rate, the salary increase, and a couple of other things. So we really drill down. Once we've decided that market is good, then we drill down to the area to decide if we want to invest in that property.
Got it. Okay, thanks for sharing. It's a great tips for the people who are looking for those type of tips. One thing that I wanted to ask: do you have a in-house property management, or you have a third-party one?
Third party.
Okay, so can you talk about the process? As you mentioned, if you're looking for those type of deals, and it could be on an edge on those type of rough areas. So can you talk about your leasing process and the way you kind of getting the making sure that you're screening tenants the right way, and maybe the process itself? How do you find those qualified people to rent apartments from you?
Yeah, so that would be a really good question for a property manager. That's not what I do. So obviously at a high level, I make the rules as far as what we will not do. So, I can share like 2 things, but other than that, I leave it to the professionals and let them do their job. So as far as being a little bit lenient with, depending on the area also, like if it's Dallas versus West Texas, it's very different people. So, I understand as an individual that people get divorced, that people get sued, that people go through life, you know what I mean? And so maybe their credit doesn't look that great. So what we will do that's a little bit over the top. Normally what we do is use a service that runs their credit, rental history, and crime or criminal background on that person. And I guess one area that we will make exceptions on is the credit score, because if they've been making their housing payments religiously over time and they just went through some stuff, like I get it, and it actually ends up being a situation where a lot of people are really grateful. Everyone needs somewhere to live. And so if they've been paying their housing, I don't mind having them live with us. So we may ask for an extra deposit, but we wouldn't ask for it all up front. I would ask for like a little bit over time so that they'd be able to at least move in. And I've been through stuff where you just need to get away and get out. So I get it. Okay. I guess that's the only thing. And then we've had a situation where we had a patient that had cancer, and those situations are tough because those final decisions go back to me. And I was able, in this certain situation I'm thinking of, to come up with a pretty creative solution. You can't always do this. And I normally don't like employees to live on site because if they're maintenance, for example, they'll never have family time. They'll never be left alone. They may charge overtime for things that they don't need to be doing. They may get into a relationship with somebody else on the property. And then we have an issue where we have a lawsuit and all kinds of stuff. So normally that's not the case, but in this situation, she needed to stay home with her son, like physically on site. So for her to be able to not have to move out and not have to, so basically what we did was we employed her. So we had her go around and check all of the property landscaping jobs that were being done and making sure that we're getting photos of what was being done, what was not being done. She would pick up trash. She would help assist with lawn maintenance sometimes. Anyway, just little tasks here and there that would amount to about $200 a month. And that's really all she needed to be taken off of her rent to be able to have it affordable. So in the way that we bill it, obviously, is that she is paying. So the market rent for that apartment is not less, it's where it should be. But like I said, we're compensating because she's working for us. So, I mean, that was a tough decision, but her name was Miranda, and she actually came to me and said, thank you so much, because, we thought we were going to have to leave. And our cancer center for our son is 40 minutes from here. That's why we moved out here. So some of that stuff is cool and gratifying, but as far as like tenant screening, we use a service, and I leave the rest of it up to the property manager.
Got it. That's no problem. So good for you. I mean, making those type of decisions for the people that you need to make. So that's awesome. So talking about the states itself, you're investing in Texas and Arizona. There's only 2 states
right now. Yes.
Okay. So can you talk about the decisions, of course, why you decided to invest in those states? Well, I understand that you live in Texas, but why Arizona?
So I'm also looking at Florida right now as well. I'm just trying to figure out, because everything's kind of overpriced, but now things because of COVID are becoming a little bit different. And I don't have a fear mindset, so I don't mind moving forward with things. And I have the entire time. I continue to put in offers. I'm like, I'm full steam ahead. I'm not stopping. But all those states, and actually Georgia is kind of on my radar. I've got a partner that I'm letting them teach me everything. I'm not putting out effort to go, meet brokers and fly out there. And I mean, I did that before. You just get sick and tired. You just got to have a local boots on the ground person. But all those states are the same, where they're conservative. So they're all landlord friendly, they're all business friendly, and they're all tax friendly. So I have this fly right now. So whenever you're trying to evict people, I mean, I've got friends that own in New York and friends that own in California and friends that own in Seattle, and they can't freaking get rid of people, and even with the moratoriums on rent and not being able to evict people, we lean more towards being landlord friendly. So for example, we had somebody who wasn't paying before COVID, and we went to the local judge and we said, hey, like this is not a COVID related thing. He's just trying to burn the system, and the judge was like, well, we're not having that. And so we went through with proceedings. And a lot of states, like, I was born in Washington, and I was just up there not too long ago in Seattle. There are a lot of people that are kind of milking the system, and that's just, in a conservative place, it's not acceptable. So.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So what type of deals are you looking for in those states, as I mentioned, in Georgia and, like Arizona? Well, can you talk about the deal criteria, like the size of the units? And of course, we talked about location, like how big of the properties should be.
Yeah, I mean, typically, but again, there's always exceptions. Like, for example, right now there's one in a suburb of Dallas right now that's a really, like, not hot suburb, but I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, it's a big growing place. So it's a property that has been untouched. So for us, or for me, my biggest successes have been on deals where we have put in the criteria 70% plus of the units have been unrenovated or are classic. So on this one, 100% are. So it's a smaller deal. It's only 45 units. And normally I would say 60 plus is where we start. But on this one, because it's, a virgin property, there's a ton of value to be sucked out of it. And it's, 2 owners that are in their 70s. So they haven't run it like a business. There's a lot of operational plays we can do there as well. So there's always exceptions, but typically 60 units plus, because at that point you can have a full-time maintenance personnel on campus or on property. You can have a full-time manager as well. And then so you're able to then scale and go find other properties and not have to constantly be coordinating things, So 70% plus classic is one of the criteria, 60 plus units, C minus to B minus deals. We look for DFW or basically any of the major MSAs or metro statistical areas in Texas, as well as Phoenix. I would even do Scottsdale. Like I said, we're looking in Florida, like Jacksonville's awesome, and some other areas, Tampa, but it's too overpriced. So kind of these certain markets. And then if I could pick my preferred, this is not like a do or die criteria, but a preferred criteria would be pitched roofs and no chiller, or a brand new chiller. So those things are like 150 grand a pop, new to replace. So if it goes out, you got to replace the whole thing, plus the piping. So I think that's the main stuff, that we look for.
Got it. You mentioned one thing that I think is very important to, to the scaling business part, which again is the partnerships. As you mentioned, a person in Georgia that will help you to acquire those type of deals. So can you talk about maybe the process and give some tips? How do you find those quality partners?
Lucky. I mean, there's no process. The best you could do is get yourself out there. You know what I mean? And, you know, figure out internally who you are, what your ethics and values, and who are you? What do you stand for in your community? And then say that out loud all the freaking time. And then you'll attract the people that are also in agreement with that person and know them, kind of know them well. Don't meet someone one time and do a deal with them. That's not a good idea. But you know, it's just trying to find people that are also in agreement with who you are. You know, like for me, I fight for justice. So I understand that people make mistakes. I understand that life happens, whatever. There's no reason to crucify somebody because life happens or they make a mistake, but trying to work through something with somebody. And then at the end of the day, for me, justice is what matters. So if there's any kind of bullying, abuse, people that are really litigious, you know, they kind of, in my head, fall in line with abusive people because like they just can't communicate on their own. So they decide to try to intimidate somebody to squeeze money out of them. You know what I mean? And I don't do that. So when it comes to fighting for the right thing, I mean, I'll do that all day. So other individuals that I've had soulmate partnerships with, for me, stand for the same thing. And I've literally seen them, and they don't just say it. I've seen them when we've gotten into tough situations, they're there. They've got my back. I've got their back. And we just fight for what's right, you know, and not like what's right for my friend because I like my friend, but let's do the right thing. And they don't mind. And same here, admitting when you're wrong and saying, look, I screwed up. Let's fix it. So I just say it out loud. And then the people that don't like that, they don't keep talking to me.
Simple as that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. So talking about the scaling the business, currently purchased as a $68.2 million, and currently, so you manage 45 million. That's total. So like, what do you have currently, as I mentioned, in the pipeline? How many more properties are you looking for acquired this year?
This year. So I've got a deal under contract right now. I don't know when you're going to publish this, but that one we went under contract on, I think on the 17th of September. And these deals take a minimum of 3 months to close. So again, working on the pipeline because there's a lot that we're doing right now, but I have other partners that, you know, they have to execute their part of it. And then we'll have to start the raise and all that stuff. But and all the conversations, all the investors. But right now, I would like to get one more deal before the end of the year. So somewhere between, you know, 100 units plus would be ideal. I've got a teammate who is just like a total baller when it comes to her raising money. I mean, she moved to France because she's like, I don't need to be anywhere to do this. Like, I just need to have consultations on my computer with people. So she's like, go find us something that's over 100 units and that meets my criteria because we're pretty conservative when it comes to what we're looking for. My investors are kind of spoiled. And so I can't be going, yeah, let's do like 7% return. They would not invest, you know? So I haven't been able to put a deal by myself under contract for a year. Those first two that I did by myself, like, well, not 100% by myself. Obviously we had passive investors and whatnot, but I'm the lead on those. And then it took almost a full calendar year to put this new one in Fort Worth under contract, but it is in the city, which makes me happy. And it's a B+, A- area. So it's a much nicer area than the deal itself. So it's a good one. But yeah, one more would be ideal before the end of the year. So I'm going on tours, meeting with brokers constantly to get that done.
Got it. Okay. So the question that I have, again, I know that it's part of it is luck, part of it is sales, and part of it is probably it's not your business, and maybe that's not what you do. As you mentioned, you have a friend who's in France at the moment, and that's what she does. But maybe you can kind of give a few tips when it comes to raising capital process.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just give you what works. How about that? Like, I'll just tell you, because I am really good at raising capital, but I don't she does only that. In a partnership. I mean, she legally has to help us with some other stuff. So she'll help us put together the slide deck. She continues to stay involved in our phone calls, you know, but as far as like talking to property managers, managing the manager, which is what the asset manager normally is what I do, as far as hiring and firing people, finding out when the system is sick and figuring out exactly what the pinpoint is, how to fix it, who's in charge, when the due date. I mean, the operations is not her. She doesn't like it, you know? And then when it comes to acquisitions and deal hunting, again, she doesn't like it. So she's like, I'm just going to stick with what I'm good at, what I like. And as a team, say if there's 3 or 4 of us, like all of our job is to pitch in with the fundraising. And honestly, if you have team members that don't pitch in, you probably shouldn't be doing a deal with them. But the thing that works right now, because obviously COVID has made us have to pivot on the way that we normally raise money or the way that we make relationships. So when you have a 506, which is a Regulation D exemption under SEC's securities law, title, I just did a presentation on this yesterday. I'm like, it's like Title 1, I think, but it's an exemption, meaning we don't have to go through full registration for the SEC. But to do that, you have to have a certain type of investor that qualifies to do these deals. So they have to be accredited or sophisticated. So part of the process is kind of narrowing down who are we talking to and who are we raising money from. So normally you would do that by, you know, kind of referrals, like friends of yours that have raised money. Who do you like to work with? Who likes to make returns? Like there's some people that passively invest as a living. I got friends that have invested like 15 deals. They don't have a job. All they do is just take money from an old job and then recycle it and make returns and then recycle it, and infinite return. But anyway, so what her and I have been doing, like I over the lockdown said, okay, well, we have to figure out a way to qualify people, but I want it automated where you're doing it in my sleep. Like I want people coming into my email saying, okay, I'm qualified as an accredited or sophisticated investor. I want to be on the list for the next deal, because part of it is that you have to have a substantive relationship before you're under contract on the deal that they invest in. So basically figuring out a way that it kind of self-runs itself. I figured that out. However, it only works really well when I have just done some kind of educational series or a webinar or something like that. And then people obviously see my link at the end and they click on it, or my existing database of people. Or, for example, I have a couple speaking engagements coming up, one with Marcus and Millichap in October. So there'll probably be like 600 to 2,000 people that I get to speak in front of. And so if they like the way that I do things, the way that I bring women into multifamily, that's our niche and our unique thing that we do, then they'll have an opportunity to get my contact information and connect and get on that list. But what Sarah does kind of takes it another level. And she's like, it is kind of labor intensive. And we're kind of thinking like, well, why don't you just record it? But sometimes it's a personalized plan. So what she does is she says, I offer a 4-prong approach to a personalized wealth building plan. And she speaks on webinars and has her own podcast and things. And so people get exposure to her that way, and then they'll engage her afterwards. And the plan basically is going through somebody's assets that they have. You know, do you have current active IRAs or 401ks? Do you have old IRAs or 401ks? Do you have a single family home that you own, that you have a mortgage on that you live in? Do you have properties? Like I have a girlfriend that has properties paid off in cash. So there's a ton of locked equity in there that she can pull out and use. So many different investment vehicles or whatnot that you can use to invest in these deals. And then also comparing. So what she does on a Zoom, she'll pop up the whiteboard. And if you have a current investment, like a single family home, for example, or something, she's like, do you actually know what your return on your investment is, what your cash on cash return is, what your annualized return is? And she's like, 99% of people don't know. So she'll do a visual where she's like, tell me what your actual, because it's real to the person, tell me what your actual purchase price is, loan to value ratio, et cetera. And then we'll do it. She's like, most of the time people are making like 3 to maybe 5% return on a single family that they're having to actively do all the work for, being called for toilets and tenants. You know, it's a pain in the butt versus, you know, she'll compare then what our typical multifamily deal that we do. So for example, usually it's about on the low end, 20% annualized return. So it beats the crap out of a single family, and you're not having to actually do any work. You're just getting mailbox money. So it makes a lot of sense to people. And again, using an example of something they're already dealing with in reality, they're like, oh, wow, it's really clear, you know, what I'm doing. And so then you have a couple options after that. You know, maybe if you don't have a large account that, like I've done some note investing where you can get in at like 5,000, 10,000, a smaller amount, and same, make passive income. Or, you know, a multifamily deal where maybe you could sell off some of your single families, or take equity out and roll it into a multifamily. So that works really well for her. She's like, people really, and then again, once they're done with their call, they have to fill out a questionnaire that, because the individuals have to self-certify that they're accredited or sophisticated. And the sheet tells you like what the definition of each is. And so if they certify and then we have a copy of it, we now have like an existing relationship that we have a date timestamp on. Plus we have their questionnaire, so we can kind of see in our database like who all is accredited, who's sophisticated, who would qualify for what deal. And then you've already had the conversation where they're really excited and they want to place capital in. So we'll get like a soft commit from that meeting. And then I have a spreadsheet of all those people. And then when we're raising money, if it's a 506B, it's friends and family. Or if it's 506C, then the individual has to be accredited. And then we have, like I said, a list of who's all accredited. So you would do an email blast out on an offering to all those people first. And then, by the way, as of the 26th of August, the accredited definition is expanding to a lot more groups, to individuals that have like Series 6, they're financial planners that are in good standing. I just did a presentation on that. So it's becoming more inclusive, so more people can invest in these assets that don't disappear. It's not legalized gambling. You know what I mean? It's something that if you're building future wealth, you actually get appreciation and cash flow out of apartments. Just plug for me.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a great thing. You know what? There's a lot of people during these times. There's a lot of uncertainty about the jobs. I mean, about the entire future. It's a good thing to know that some of the people, you know, as the SEC, as you mentioned, expanding that regulation, and it will help a lot of people to invest passively in those type of deals, and it will provide them, you know, additional source of income, which is a good thing. One question that I wanted to ask you: what is like a rule of thumb that you use, you know, for those soft commitments?
What do you mean?
Like, how many people should, you know, like say, like, let's say if you have a raise of capital, which is like $3 million, you need that. Let's say it's a small like multifamily deal. So how many people should, and let's say per person, as you know, it's like 50K or 100K. So how many people you should have, like do those soft commitments? Is it like, you know, if it's 100K, so is it going to be like 30 people you need for that? So is that what you should have, or should you have more people to kind of soft commit? So like, what is the number for that kind of 3 million people, 3 million, you know, raise?
It depends on what the buy-in minimum is and how many units they're buying. But I guess it really, for me in my head, what I do is I apply the sales rule, where it's you'll probably close 1 in 10. In reality, when you look at the people that have engaged in wanting to invest and then to getting them to investing, because I track this stuff, there's been one person that didn't perform. And so we no longer talk to them because there's no reason to. Another person decreased their investment, which wasn't a happy situation, because I feel if I keep my word, others people should as well. But other than that, everybody else that has engaged me to invest in an investment that they were interested in has invested. So I don't know what close rate that is, but really freaking high. But in my head, I assume it's 10%. So therefore I would get, you know, I guess 10 times the amount of commits, or soft commits if possible. And then again, it creates that, fear of missing out, because I'm like, okay, there's a wait, like right now in this deal, I have a wait list of people that have been interested, but we can't publish the offering. We can't publish the numbers until one, due diligence is done and we've checked that all of our assumptions meet what we thought it was going to. So therefore their return projections are reasonable. And then also to make sure that we have our filing with the SEC done, and then I can actually, you know, give them an offering. So yeah, I guess, yeah. So I think the waiting list right now. Yeah.
So the thing, like I want to mention, a great part that you said, like you have four partners in your team, and again everybody's pitching in with their part when it comes to raising capital. And again, your partner who is in France, she's doing it virtually, you know, leveraging the social media, the podcast, and you're going on you know, like physical, you know, places like you mentioned Marcus and Millichap event, which is going to be 600 people in place. So that's going to give you a tremendous amount of leverage. Are you going to be talking as a broker at that point, or are you going to be talking about what's happening in Texas multifamily?
You mean at the speaking engagements coming up? You know, usually what I talk about has nothing to do with data, because people are just beat to death with that crap all day long. You know, obviously we all get reports from the lenders, we get reports. So again, my niche and my differentiating activities are getting more women into multifamily investing. And so part of it will be a little bit about, you know, what makes us different, but educating individuals. There's several books I always recommend, but on why women and our communication is a little bit different, and how we take away our own power by a few things that are subconscious we don't know we're doing, and kind of how I've been able to utilize those, like turning those tactics and stop doing those things to be able to gain power in my industry, you know, without having to be an autocratic leader and really tough and try to be like a man. No, not at all, you know, and then be able to have success and be respected in your industry. There's no, yeah. So kind of going through those things is really important, because I think men hearing that too, maybe will understand a little bit better just some of the stuff that's going on in our head that just through years and years of time is just kind of subconscious, and all of us are affected by those subconscious behaviors differently, but you have to unlearn them to have a lot of success. So that's kind of part of my stuff that I talk about. And sometimes it's different depending on what the conference is about. If it's like this one in Marcus Millichap is a Southeastern conference. So I will talk about a couple of deals that we have in that area and what we're looking for, just so that, again, when you're putting it out there, it'll come to you. And then I've got a speaking engagement at IMN, which is Information Management Network. Let's see, in November, and then also January. And again, one is in the West Coast. So I love these webinars because, like, you can attract a ton of people, and then you can talk about things in other states without actually physically having to be there. So yeah, the topic varies based on what their conference is about too. So I kind of have to flex a little bit with what they need.
Got it. And I love the fact which you mentioned, you know, just give more information to the ladies, and again, to ladies who are watching, you know, like, you're part of the Dallas InvestHER network, which is a big, great network. And I spoke with a few women who are part of the network, and I definitely encourage everybody, every lady and, you know, women who's watching this to get involved with the group, which is a phenomenal place to be in. But one of the whys is kind of, you mentioned that you want to change the face of multifamily. So can you, like, expand on that? What do you mean by saying change the face?
So right now in multifamily, it's dudes. Like, I would say if you're in a room of multifamily people, it's probably 3 women or something. And then I constantly, not anymore because people kind of know me a little bit better now, but constantly in the beginning it was, so are you the broker? Are you the insurance agent? Are you the, like, no, I'm the buyer, you know, and I get it, I'm female, I get it, I'm young, whatever. But that those things I don't let stop me. Sometimes they do, but I have people that I talk to when that little guy in my head is giving me that self-doubt to, you know what, no, like that's put upon you by other people's words or other people's thoughts. Those are not your thoughts, you know? So yeah, it's just, there's not enough women in my industry. And I want it to be common practice that, for example, on this next deal we have right now, well, that's what it will end up being. There's 3 of us partners and we're all women. That's what I want on all of my deals moving forward. And if I could have my way, I'd have all the limited partners be females as well. So I can't,
look, just one thing that I wanted to mention, you know, I do understand there's a lot of guys in the business and multifamily syndication, but when you're going to come across those women, and I came across and I had the woman on your show, on my show, and probably you're familiar, would be familiar with some of the names, but when you come across those women, they're doing like 20 times better than some men in the same business. There's a few, you know, a few less, but they're doing far more better than some of the guys.
It probably took them longer to get that ramp up going, because I think a lot of the times people want it, like for my apartment queen thing, I can't tell you how many 60 some odd year old guys that I meet with that are selling me a property, and I have to take my buddy with me who's in his 60s to make them feel confident and comfortable that, okay, you know, there's money somewhere, you know, so that they kind of just, that goes away out of their head. But yeah, I mean, there just needs to be more of us to be the norm, you know. And a lot of the times when women are the token woman in the room, for example, I've seen this happen to me. You're with someone else who's a principal, someone else who's a broker, et cetera, and they want to talk about something that's, you know, controversial or something that has to do with business or something. And especially when they don't know you well, they all kind of look at you at the table and they're kind of like, oh, let's not talk about business. I go, let's talk about business, because what you're cutting off from me is now we can't have the bond of friendship. Now I can't learn from you, whatever it is that you're going through. I don't want to, you know, repeat your mistakes. And so long story short, like, having a token person, you know, being the only one in the area usually pulls back the amount of learning, and then also the amount of confidence that person has to talk about their differing opinions or differing perspective, their lens, you know. So having more women involved with each other really helps us to excel and exceed faster. And then women are always shown and proven over time to be better investors because usually we're more risk averse. So
Here you go. Here you go. And again, like there's women in business industry. There's a lot of them who are doing phenomenal things. And I think the Fed of the chair is a woman currently, right? She's what's her name? Janet. Aileen, I think Aileen something right. So I mean, there's so many ladies in business industries, real estate investing, financial industries, hedge funds. I mean, it, all over the place, creating billion-dollar businesses. So there's like in my eyes, there's no difference. You're a man, you're a woman, you're like it doesn't matter like how great you are as a business person. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Can you
How professional are you?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it doesn't matter. The gender is not an issue. Well, at least in my head. But the thing that I wanted to ask you, because again, you're meeting all these great women, women, guys, people, and you talking again, and meetups, events, podcasts like this one, and like, what is the one thing that you want always people kind of to remember about you? Like, what is the legacy behind building all this business?
The legacy, or I guess you would say, so we have our mission, vision, values. So y'all know the vision of creating 1 billion female investors in the next 10 years. Mission, I guess, is a large part of kind of, I think, what you're asking. And so our mission, I'm not going to put it in exact verbatim words, what it is, but it's what I live every day. I want to stop toxic codependency that is a result of these ideas that we have because of our codependency on other things or other people. Codependency is a hard thing to explain, but basically if you could remove whatever that is from your life and feel like you couldn't function, that's a codependency. So a certain person that you're dating making you feel like you have to live in a certain place, or an example for me is having to deal with abuse for a long time and only knowing that is your norm, like you don't know any different. But being able for me to get out of that codependency happened from creating passive cash flow in real estate, and then realizing, you know what, I don't have to listen to you. I don't have to wear that or live here or do whatever it is. I need to get to my own place and get my own thoughts straight, figure out who I am, get myself confident in who I am and what I want. And then I want that for more people, a billion more people. So
That's a good goal to have. Billion people. That's something that you're looking forward to. I mean, it's a big enough for you to kind of keep going. So
yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. That's an exciting goal. So I really appreciate you today for being on the show. I mean, this person is definitely a go-giver, and I do recommend you girls, guys, everybody who is watching to get in contact with her and talk about real estate, because as you mentioned before, the level of professionalism that I'm getting and the people that are getting is definitely up here, or maybe it's here, right? Well, it's
The
high.
P
It's
factor is so important. Yeah.
it's definitely high. So you're definitely a great business person, for people to get in contact with you, talk about real estate strategies, tips, passive investing, so all of that great stuff.
Life. Yeah.
So I definitely encourage you to get in contact with Kaylee and talk these things. So again, I appreciate you for being on the show today. Good times, great times to get to know you, your story, and the impact that you're looking to hit. I mean, 1 billion people. That's again, I love that. So just one thing that I wanted to ask you, if you can share, guys and girls, this episode with a person of yours who you always knew kind of were interested into real estate investing, but always lacks the knowledge, the inspiration. So episode is going to give you all those pieces that were missing for that person. So make sure to do that. Again, Kaylee, I appreciate you for being today on episode. And as always, I'm going to see you on the next show. Thanks for watching.
Got it. Thank you.